Good evening and welcome to Just the News. This is our nightly telecast of everything important that's happening in the country and around the world in just about 10 minutes. And just because it's 10 minutes, we have no room for opinion on this bulletin. Let's get straight to it. This is Just the News. Now, the chief ministers of Delhi, Maharashtra and Rajasthan have written to the central government asking that the age limit for vaccinations be relaxed. In response, the central government has said that the COVID vaccination is not for everyone who wants it, but for those who need it. Addressing a press conference, Union Health Secretary Rajesh Bhushan has said there are two aims to the current vaccination drive: to prevent deaths and to protect the healthcare system. The aim is not to administer the vaccine to those who want it, but to those who need it, he said, end quote. He didn't, of course, explain how not vaccinating people between the ages of 18 and 45 will serve the said purpose. But Niti Aayog member V.K. Paul has said that when the time comes to open it to all, then we will open it up to all. Now, in a letter to the Prime Minister, the Maharashtra Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray has asked that the age be lowered to 25, which means that everybody above the age of 25 be allowed a vaccination. He said the states are facing a huge surge and having to place curbs on people to safeguard the population. However, if a large number of our young working population is vaccinated, then the intensity of cases would not be so much. So obviously his case is that if more and more people are vaccinated, then this kind of restriction on movement will not be necessary. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal has written to the Prime Minister asking him to lift the ban on age restrictions completely. The Indian Medical Association, which is an association of doctors across the country, has suggested the vaccination to be allowed for everyone above the age of 18. And Rajasthan Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot has asked for the age limits to be removed as well. In the meantime, a senior government official of the central government, Vinod Kumar Paul, has said people's participation is vital to control the second wave of the pandemic, and the next 4 weeks are going to be extremely critical for us. He said India's COVID-19 cases, deaths per million population, is still the lowest in the world. Let's take a look at those numbers though. India recorded 96,982 fresh cases in the last 24 hours. 155 people died. Now, it could be argued that those 155 deaths of people who belonged to and were loved by someone could have been avoided if more people were vaccinated. Maharashtra continues to be the worst affected. Mumbai reporting for the first time more than 10,000 cases in the last 24 hours. A quick look at restrictions that have been placed. Delhi has announced a night curfew from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. starting tonight and will continue until the 30th of April. Public transport will continue to function. So the metro, the buses, the autos will still function, so will the taxis. Essential services will all still be available and people working in essential services will be allowed to move around. Exceptions have been made for those in key government offices, diplomatic staff, healthcare professionals, patients, pregnant women and those going to take the vaccine. People working in shops for food, groceries, milk, fruit, meat, banks, insurance, ATMs, print electronic media, petrol pumps, manufacturing units, cold storage and those working in COVID facilities are allowed to move around. Rajasthan has also announced a night curfew between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. Multiplexes, gymnasiums, classes from 1 to 9th standard have been suspended until the 19th of April. Travellers visiting Rajasthan will have to carry a COVID negative test. The Union Health Secretary Rajesh Bhushan, in the press conference that I talked about earlier, has said on-site registration for healthcare and frontline workers will now happen only at government vaccination centres. Workers will have to produce an original photo identity and employment certificate. Now, this move comes after the central government came across several instances where ineligible beneficiaries were claiming the vaccine, calling themselves healthcare workers. So they brought restrictions on how healthcare workers can be vaccinated. Anyone above the age of 45, though, as a healthcare worker gets vaccinated in the general category. In other news, outside of COVID, a day after the Bombay High Court ordered a preliminary probe into the allegations made against Anil Deshmukh, the Maharashtra government has approached the Supreme Court challenging that Bombay High Court order. Now, the High Court said the CBI would complete its probe in 15 days and the CBI director was at liberty to choose further course of action. Home Minister Anil Deshmukh then resigned. Dilip Valse Patil has now become the Home Minister. This is about the allegations made by former Mumbai Police Commissioner Parambir Singh against Anil Deshmukh, accusing him of very serious corruption. A quick look at the assembly elections. Voting in assembly elections in 475 constituencies ended today across 4 states: West Bengal, Assam, Tamil Nadu and Kerala, and of course Puducherry. Voters were voting in the single phase in Tamil Nadu, only votes for one day. Kerala, Tamil Nadu and Puducherry, I beg your pardon. West Bengal and Assam are in their 3rd phase, and of course this is the last phase for Assam. West Bengal will continue to have 5 more phases. Phase 3, as it has concluded, showed about 82% polling in Assam, 65% turnout in Tamil Nadu, 78% in Puducherry, 77% in West Bengal and 69% in Kerala. In the Supreme Court, Justice N.V. Ramana has been appointed the next Chief Justice of India by President Ramnath Kovind. He will take the oath on the 24th of April. Ramana will be the 48th Chief Justice of India. Chief Justice S.A. Bobde will retire on the 23rd of April. Justice Ramana was part of the bench that ruled that the suspension of internet in Jammu and Kashmir should be reviewed immediately. He was also part of a panel of judges that held that the Chief Justice's office should come under the ambit of the Right to Information Act. There's one controversy though. On the 6th of last year, the Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Y.S. Jagan Mohan Reddy sent a letter to the Chief Justice of India, Bobde, in which he made sensational allegations about Justice N.V. Ramana. Reddy accused Justice Ramana of trying to influence the state judiciary to destabilize the state government. He then made his complaint public in a press conference. There was nothing heard of it for a while, and then in March this year, the Supreme Court, in a single-page statement uploaded on its website, said that the matter had been dealt with under its in-house procedure and dismissed after due consideration. The contents of the proceedings, the court said, were strictly confidential and were not liable to be made public. It was a day later, after that statement was posted, that Justice Bobde recommended Justice Ramana to be the next Chief Justice of India as per the seniority principle that's normally followed in the Supreme Court. Now let's take a look at the world of business. According to the Nikkei Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index, India's factory activity grew at its weakest pace in 7 months in the month of March, thanks to lockdowns and the resurgence of COVID-19 that seems to have dampened demand and output. According to the survey, COVID restrictions and lockdown measures in many states, Indian manufacturers look set to experience a very challenging month in April. Now, foreign direct investment in our equity markets into the country in April 2020 to January 2021 grew at 28%. So $58.18 billion of money has come in from around the world to be invested in our stock market, and this is according to data released by the Commerce and Industries Ministry. Now, the country that has been the top investor in India is Singapore. 30.28 of the total FDI equity inflow has come in from Singapore. Let's take a look at news now coming in from the rest of the world. Russian President Vladimir Putin has signed a law that ensures that he will stay in office until 2036. Putin proposed this change last year as part of constitutional reforms, and apparently Russians overwhelmingly backed the vote back in July. 68-year-old Putin has already been in power for more than 2 decades, since the year 2000. In Myanmar, the Associated Press has reported the Myanmar government has stepped up its campaign against celebrities who are supporting the protests by the citizens. The government on Sunday and Monday published a list of wanted people that includes actors, musicians, social media influencers, and charged them with spreading news to affect state stability. The penalty of the offence is up to 3 years in prison. So far, 3,000 people have been put in prison, and 550 people have been killed since the coup was announced on the 1st of February. According to the BBC, more than 1,800 inmates have escaped from prison in Nigeria. They were coordinated attacks that happened overnight when 6 prisoners reportedly returned in the morning and 35 refused to escape. The police say militants heavily armed with machine guns and rocket-propelled grenades and explosive devices attacked the prison overnight, and 1,800 inmates have escaped. The president has called it an act of terrorism carried out by anarchists. A quick look at the world of science and technology. Apple CEO Tim Cook has teased the possibility of an Apple car. No doubt it will be very expensive. In an interview with Sway podcast, he has said that if you sort of step back, the car in a lot of ways is a robot, and an autonomous car is a robot. So there are a lot of things you can do with autonomy, and we'll see what Apple does. End quote. He also says we love to integrate hardware, software and services and find the intersection point of these because we think that that's where the magic occurs. Also taking a look at what's happening in sports, North Korea has announced that it has dropped out of the Tokyo Olympics to protect its players from the worldwide public health crisis caused by COVID-19. The decision is the first time North Korea has missed the Summer Olympics since it boycotted Seoul back in 1988. South Korea's Unification Ministry has expressed regret because it hoped the Tokyo Olympics would provide an opportunity to improve relations. The Games are scheduled to take place on the 23rd of July. Paralympics will follow on the 24th of August. For the first time ever, international spectators will not be allowed. And a piece of sort of feel-good news to leave you at the end of the day. Close to 150,000 hearts have been painted in London on a half-mile long hall that runs along the River Thames. Each of these hearts symbolizes a life lost during COVID-19. The National COVID Memorial Hall has said each heart represents someone who was loved, someone who was lost too soon, adding that it would take about 10 minutes for visitors to walk the length of that 6-foot-high wall. Well, that's a wrap on the news from me. A couple of pointers before we let you go. Remember to like, share, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It helps us out a great deal. If you want to read more about any of the stories you heard on this bulletin, the source links to the articles are in the description, so you can take a look at that. But that's available on YouTube, so you'll have to go there to take a look at it. Share this video with anyone you feel might find just the news useful, and give us a thumbs up if you think that this is a good way to get your news. Thanks for watching. Good night.